Thanks for talking with me. What is your name and what do you do?
First name John, John. Last name Kish, Kish. And I am a horticulturist who owns an indoor plant shop. So the study of horticulture is about growing and selling of plants, whereas botany tends to be the most known term, and that's more about the study of plants. So we're all about growing and reproducing plants.
What do you love about plants?
My number one thing was I was attracted to things that grow, things that literally can create out of nothing something as massive as some of these plants behind me. Just from a couple cells, as small as a seed. So that is what first attracted me. And then I think, a lot of the benefits that they create, the plant world, all the way from the soil that we come from to the air that we breathe. I think, they're one of the biggest cheerleaders of our survival here. And if we don't take care of them, they can't take care of us.
What do you love about your job?
I think my biggest joy is honestly educating and spreading greenery. So getting to talk to a person one-on-one, really building that rapport and helping them problem solve what plant would be best for them. I think that's my favorite thing, because you're kind of like, you're still a superhero, like you're still helping and you're still doing something for someone. Even though it's still retail, you're problem solving so that they will have the best success for that plant and take home something that they will nourish and cherish, just like a child or a puppy. So if I can help be that like adoption center that can help guide you in the right direction, that feels pretty cool. So yeah, that's my biggest fun thing is working in a shop, selling and partnering plants with people.
What got you into horticulture?
Love of plants started around age 5. I always wanted to garden. So I started off with gardening, and I had a giant, beautiful garden by the time I was 10 years old. I kept working up to bigger and bigger gardens, and then went and studied horticulture in college. Before then, though, I grew up in an amazing program at Fulham High School in Oregon, and we had an amazing ecology, horticultural, biology program. All the natural sciences were amazing, and the teachers there were amazing. So I was doing full prairie restoration and planting of native species at the age of 16, and then went on to study horticulture at University of Washington and Oregon State University, and then continued on from there. Jumped around all different types of jobs. I actually did indoor plant installations for the Rockefeller Center for a couple months in New York City, all the way to floral design in Portland, and now here to an indoor plant shop. So I've been all over the map.
What is your career journey like?
So after I graduated college at Oregon State, I applied to different art conservatories for musical theater, and I ended up choosing the one in New York City called Circle in the Square Theater School. It's a theater school out of a Broadway theater, which is really cool. So you get to see how an actual Broadway theater functions, and work with the actual real world professionals as teachers. So I did that for a 2-year program while working in plants at Rockefeller Center. And then I also worked in coffee, so kind of did a little bit of everything in New York. But it was really cool for a small town Oregon boy to be working on all that stuff, theater, plants, and everything in between.
How did you decide which path to take after high school?
So I think plants were always kind of the one part that I already knew my whole life. I always knew I wanted to study something in the plant field, whether it's forestry or horticulture. However, that wasn't the only thing I wanted to kind of do with my life, and I didn't know where in the plant realm I was going to land. So I actually grew up in a Catholic family, and I was pretty closeted, and I didn't really come to terms with myself until I came out in college, and started really finding myself and finding out what I liked doing. I became a much better artist once I knew who and what I was, but that kind of helped shape my path. So it's been an amazing journey trying to find myself, but at the same time finding my passions and then finding what I want to do. So once I really started coming into my own in my late 20s, then I really knew what I wanted to do, and that was start this plant shop. And it's attached to a theater that we're building. So a plant shop theater is not been done before as much as I know, and here I am creating my two favorite things in this world that I love doing and I love sharing with the world. So it's pretty awesome that just owning yourself and being who you are and fighting through all the controversy makes you stronger, one, but it also makes you work a lot harder. And I was able to work in so many different types of jobs that helped me land where I am today. I couldn't run a business, I couldn't do retail, and I couldn't do a lot of these things without having other experience besides what I also studied in college. So that was cool.
What does your average workday look like?
I mean, not everyone's as crazy as me, but I feel like a lot of business owners that I know, at least in Bentown, we're all in the same boat. It's like, you know, we want to have our own power and our own control over things and leave the 9 to 5, but we all joke because we work almost 24/7. So you work a lot more as a business owner, but you're so much more fulfilled. You constantly are taking on new hats, like you said, like many hats. And so I feel like that's good for me because I'm a jack of all trades. So I've been able to take on and use all the experience I've had over the last, 15 years that I've gathered my resume and apply it to my own shop. So retailing, creativity, decor, selection, shopping, teaching, communications, email, tech, you got to do it all. Anything like that, you really got to know how to do everything. You can do it without knowing all that, but I find it's more expensive. So I started with $200 in a bundle of plants in the back of my Subaru, and now here I am in 3 years. So it is possible still in America, I think, to have that dream and do it if the stars align for you and if you work hard and if you find the right community. I think that's the biggest thing for me. My success I attribute to Bend. I think the community of Bend is very local centric, and I think I would not have this store if it was not for the Bend citizens that supported me every step of the way. So I'll take some credit, but for the most part, it's all Bend grown. So,
what made you want to open a shop in Bend?
Now, so asking about community is an interesting one because my whole life I didn't really ever feel like I had a community. And I can't really decipher if that's because I didn't know who I was, so I was alienating people myself, or if it's just that I didn't know who I was, so I didn't feel like I fit into any group. I think plenty of people supported me, but it never felt like I had a community for me. And it also felt kind of selfish to kind of be that way. So I was just kind of a person that was nice to everyone and just kind of floated, but it was a very lonely life. So it wasn't until even through college I had some people that started being my community. And when I say community, it's a very broad spectrum. It's just like, who are people that are your people that stick by your side, whether they're your best friends or mentors or whomever. But I think for Bend, what I found was that there was a community of people that loved what I did, theater and plants. And then there was also a community of people in Bend that would support anything I do and everything I do. And they loved me for me, no matter what that meant, whether because I was weird or nerdy or whatever. There were no labels. They just loved me unconditionally and supported me and spread the word about whatever I was doing. And we tried leaving Bend and we went to Portland, and didn't last long because we knew that this is where our community was, and we felt lonely once again. So you don't know what you have until you lose it. And then so we had to come back, and we've been in Bend ever since, going on 7 years, and it's, for me, the community I've liked. I've had friends all over the country and the world, but never like this in every facet of my life am I being supported. I know if anything happens to my shop or me, I'll be okay because I have so many people that love me. So that's important, and I think that to me is honestly like the most important thing of humanity and living on this earth is other people and having community and family.
How would you describe your career journey?
It was definitely a tango. There's a meme that I once saw that says, life is always a tango. You take 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. So I feel like it was never a straight path. It was definitely not linear. It was not anything I imagined it to be. People always say set goals and intentions, and I feel like I did 10 years ago to own a plant shop called Somewhere That's Green. It happened. Was it the route that I thought it would take? Absolutely not. I mean, I spent 4 years in New York City studying theater and serving coffee. I did nothing with plants for the most part. But then I spent time studying in college. I went to 2 different colleges. I thought I was going to be a music major for a bit. That changed. I went back to plants. I always go back to plants, and never knew what my plant shop was going to look like either. So you just kind of roll with it, and I think it just falls in place when it's meant to happen. I think also if you're brave enough to jump, that was my biggest thing. I think you hear most business owners say that once they started, they wish they would have started sooner. But at the same time, I don't think it should ever be different, because I think you start when you're precisely meant to, because you're ready. You've gathered the intel, you've gathered your research, you know exactly what you're doing. So yeah, never become discouraged because your path may be not what you were thinking, because it's always going to end up where you're supposed to be. It just might not take the way you think it should or you want it to. So trust the process.
What sorts of students might enjoy opening their own business?
I don't know the first thing about business, which is hilarious because I didn't study it. I just observed. I worked with a lot of small businesses in my 20s and kind of observed what to do and what not to do. And I do believe that people that should be business owners or entrepreneurs have it kind of innately in them. It's just who they are. I always was pretty good at retail, not to toot my own horn, but like I just was. I like talking to people. I like being genuine, and I like honestly finding stuff for them to purchase to be happy. And so I'm good at that. And so it makes sense for me to do that. I don't think that's for everybody. I think there's plenty of people that I studied plants with that we literally studied the same thing, but we've all gone in different directions. So I think some people were fine going into the nursery route because it's very antisocial, and you're just sitting in a nursery like potting a million plants. Your hands are dirty. It's amazing. You feel fulfilled. You've done so much work. And I love that aspect, but I like a little more social, and I like working amongst people, and I like kind of the fast pacedness and the high energy. Like today, even I think when we were filming earlier today, I think it was just amazing, the energy of the shop and the bustle and the hustle and people and plants slinging everywhere. I think that attracts me and it keeps me energized. But yeah, you kind of sign up for people buying you, not just your business. So you're gonna have a lot of friends. And if you want community, this is a way to do it. I think you don't have to own a business. You don't have to go that route, but there's just so many things you could do within the entrepreneurial spirit and realm that I think you can find your level. Some people just make their own crafts and sell on Etsy. I think that's totally fine and totally valid.
Do you have any advice for students?
I don't know. Some of the advice I think of that I'm still trying to take on myself. It's easier to give advice than actually live it. But truly, I think it's important to find who you are. I think a lot of people don't. And I think if you can get to the root of who you are as much as possible, I think it's easy for those of us that go to theater school, because they rip your soul out and they tear it apart, and then they make you piece it back together again. So of course we know a lot of who we are. That is what an actor does. But if you don't go through that, I think it's also really beneficial to do that work yourself though. And I'm not just speaking for teens or young 20s. I think it goes all the way up to people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. I still think there's people that don't know who they are. And if you don't know who you are, how are you expected to then treat others with kindness or with love or with whatever they need? Because I think you're so clouded by not knowing who you are. So I think that's my biggest advice. If you're going to pursue any type of passion or career that you're passionate about, or start your own business and represent yourself, I really think you need to know who you are rather than figuring out what your passions are. Because if you figure out who you are, I think the passions just naturally come along with that. And you realize what lights your spark, or whatever metaphor you want to use. So I think that's the challenge and the advice I would give, whether that's going out on a trail hike and digging deep into your soul and figuring out what sparks you and what you're feeling, and get your head running and figure out how you learn, how you see things. Do you observe things? What makes you shine? What makes other people see you, if that's what you want? Start piecing together all those observations and just figure out who the heck you are. And maybe you'll never figure that out, but at least you're trying to always be a better human. And I think if you do that, your career or how you make money or what you do in your life or how you live in this world, I think will fall into place. And you'll do what you're meant to do. I honestly believe that.